Hey, good Monday morning from the office. I'm your host, BKP. We are North Georgia's only live online morning show. Hashtag turn off the news networks. Turn it off. Just turn them off. Tune in here. I am your host. Hold on, I got to answer. This is big. So, good morning from the office. There are all the ways you can contact us. Now, last week I watched the President of the United States. We are going to be moving. Destiny, as I told you this morning, this show is going to move. I have her on major pay attention mode. I have 80 pictures. We have 4 guests. Now, our guests this morning in this order. Number five, Madison Cawthorn. Madison Cawthorn, the Republican candidate for the North Carolina 11th Congressional District. Number 5. Do we have it? There we go. Thank you. He will be our first up this morning in just a couple minutes. Number 2 here, our good friend of the show. This is a picture of him being accosted by a Black Lives Matter peaceful protester. They're hurling a hate crime at my friend Vernon Jones, calling him a house the N-word. Yes. We're going to talk to him about that. We're going to talk to him why he never goes on CNN, MSNBC. We're going to ask Mr. Jones this morning if he was in fear for his life. Media doesn't want to talk about what happened with Rand Paul, his wife, Vernon Jones, his guest, and many others after President Trump's speech that they could not peacefully walk home, not protest or walk to their hotel. He will be our second guest this morning. Give me number 11, Savannah Savannah Vire. She is the, that's number 11. Yes, she is the Trump Victory. She's with the Trump campaign. She is the Trump Victory press secretary. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, it is really grainy. I know that, but put it up anyway. It's the best one I have. I don't have a new 11. I know what you're saying. I don't have a new 11, so you're going to have to put it up. So Savannah is the Trump Victory press secretary in Georgia. We're going to find out this morning how many, if Georgia is in play, listen to me, not friggin' Joe Scarborough. Hell no. Not CNN and Jake Tapper, damn it. Not commie Chris Wallace. Not Chuck Todd. Not Brennan. What's her name? Oh my God, is she evil, right? Anyhow, getting back to, listen to me. Is Georgia in play? If it's in play, how many people have they hired to put on the ground in Georgia, the Biden campaign? We're going to find out. And wrapping up our show today, our last guest will be pull up number 10. Jason Thompson is the Georgia National Republican Committee man. He was in Charlotte. He was on the front row of history at the convention there in Washington, D.C. We have a great 30-minute conversation with Jason, and we talk a little bit about Georgia's 7th District. We're talking to Jason about ballot harvesting. 4 great interviews that the media will not bring information to you that we have going. So that's this morning. Now, I want to put this out, okay? Destiny, this is going to be a 30-second clip, period, if that much, but it's a new clip. So I'm going to pause. Okay. Now, we're starting a new recording because this is going to take 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That's it. All right. I watched the President of the United States. Okay. I watched, wait a minute. Where's it at? Where's it at? Hold on. I got it here somewhere. I watched the President of the United States issue a full pardon last week. This is a first for the show. Very first for the show, and I'm glad you're here with me. I am now issuing a full BKP pardon. This took a lot from me. Number 78. Yes. Number 78. It's the only way this can work. There you go. I am issuing a full BKP pardon to Glenn Beck because Glenn Beck has issued a heartfelt apology to the President Trump. He proved me wrong at almost every turn. Talk show host louds the president's humanity. So today, Glenn Beck, you have been fully pardoned by BKP myself. When you were slamming your face into Cheetos and coming up and wanting to look orange to make fun at Donald Trump, when you attacked him at every corner, I said we were through. But that's all. I did not say Eric Erickson. Let's get that clear. Eric Erickson has not received a pardon from BKP. I don't want to say won't. If he personally calls me or something, we'll see. We'll go from there. But today I'm issuing a full pardon to Glenn Beck. Just wanted to get that out of the way and move on. That means I will be following his some of his stuff on his show, some of his articles. I totally shut off from him, but we're going to get back to the keeping up what Glenn Beck is doing. So there you go. That's it. That's the end of that segment. Full pardon for Glenn Beck. Now, we're moving fast on this show before we get to our first guest. I want to talk polling. This is a new segment, okay? Pause. I told them in there I'm going to do a lot of little segments that we want to get out that you can share with your friends. Okay, they are losing it at the networks. Losing it. And I'm going to prove why, okay? I'm going to prove why. All right, ready? Now, when we get into polling, let's look at, for example, give me number, this is the polling, okay? Where do we stand? Now, we got a lot of work to do because I watched this weekend, I watched ABC this week with George Stephanopoulos. I watched CBS, Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, CBS, Face the Nation, and the commie, as I call him, Chris Wallace, Fox News. I do not watch CNN on Sunday. I can't even go that distance. I say, okay, but watching all of them yesterday, I wanted to pay attention. I made 4 pages. I took 4 pages of notes. 4 pages of notes I wrote down yesterday. And that being said, Trump's America. I was watching for what they're trying to do and what they're trying to turn. But this right now is talking about polling. Okay, their heads are spinning off, as President Trump calls him, Psycho Joe. Now, give me number 81. Now, watch what we're about to show you, okay? Because this is important. Number 81. Biden leads president by 6 points nationally. Biden 50-44. Morning consult poll. That's 6 points nationally. Now, first of all, you can't put too much into a national poll. We don't want to spend too much time on that, but the fact is you cannot put too much emphasis on or give too much credit, or give any credit really for that matter, to national polls, okay? But in a national poll, this is where Biden needs to be up 12. I'm serious. But he's up 6, okay? 6. Give me number 80. Now watch what they do here. They find an off the beaten path poll. Now, this is how desperate Psycho Joe Scarborough is this morning. They find a off the beaten path USC. Biden leads President Trump by 12 points nationally. Now, they needed to show that. They needed to get back into the double digits. But look at the polling sample. Biden 53, Trump 41. You see, the Morning Consult national poll, which I don't give too much to it anyway, is down to 6. 3 plus 3, 6. Count them. So Joe and his allies to defend Joe Biden and defeat Donald Trump, their mission has to get Biden back into double digits. So you look at number 80. Okay. Now let's look at number 79. Show me number 79. Okay. 79. They are so desperate and they're in so much fear over at the MSDNC headquarters that they had to take a poll and put it up. And if you can look to the bottom left, you cannot read that, but I will for you. Among 8,355 eligible voters. Eligible. Not likely. The sample is not likely voters. You have your likely, you have your registered. They had to dig into the eligible. Now, I will tell you this. The Democrats know that the only win they have, believe it or not, is the eligible voter. That's it. Only win they have possible is eligible. Meaning, if they're registering, and they have, Democrats have registered. If they've registered voters, they need to ballot harvest. Yes, ballot harvest. They need to go drag your sorry ass out of, I don't care. They need to knock on the door of the apartment. The little paranoid people need to go over and peep out the window. Is that the cops, man? Is that the FBI? Put the bong away. I'm serious. They need to open the door. Hey, man, what do you want? Go vote. Do I have to? I'm pretty high. Don't worry. We got you covered. That's what they have to do. But this is where they're at among 8,355 eligible voters. Now, let's keep going there. Okay. Let's go down to number 75. Now, we're going to show you where this comes from in a minute. Look at Arizona. Okay. Arizona statewide presidential poll. And I'm going to tell you where to go look for all this in just a minute. What does it say? Arizona presidential poll, Trump 46.2, Joe Biden 44.8. Now, these polls are all likely voters. We're narrowing down, okay? You have not heard the media. Listen every day. Well, you don't have to. I will for you, okay? CNN, MSNBC, every time you turned around, not 2 weeks ago, before the national convention, the DNC national convention, you heard Arizona, Arizona, Arizona. It's a little quiet. They are in such dire straits, the Democrat. Joe Biden is heading to Michigan, and he's going to go to he's going to Pennsylvania. Yes, yes. If he has this 12-point lead in Pennsylvania, why the hell does he come to Atlanta, do a big rally? Why does he shoot out to Arizona where he has a chance to flip it? Why not? Why Pennsylvania and why Minnesota? But here's the Arizona numbers. Let's go into number 74, which I'm not going to spend too much time bragging, and I don't mean it in an ugly way, but your host here has been on this like a laser beam for a while. Number 74, Minnesota State. Minnesota. I always lived there. Minnesota. Minnesota statewide presidential poll. Minnesota presidential poll, Joe Biden 46.9, Donald Trump 46.5. Hell, you say, among likely voters. You have your likely, registered, and I'm eligible. 73. 73, Wisconsin statewide presidential poll. Huh. President Trump 46.2, Joe Biden 45.4. Wisconsin. Yeah, you registered likely. This is in the likely voters. Now stay with me. Not done here. Michigan. Now we're going to go to a Senate poll. Oh, they're scared. Democrats are scared. SH asterisk asterisk list. They are. They are. This is a problem. Michigan, number 72. This is a 72. Number 72. This is a Senate poll. John James, African American. That would be black for some of you. Republican Senate candidate. He's up 48 to Gary Peters 46. Oh, God. Oh, hell to the yes. 71, Michigan statewide, 71, Michigan statewide presidential poll here. 71, Michigan. Look at that. Trump 46.9, Biden 44.2. Likely voters. Let's keep the ball rolling. Now, I'm going to show you, because you can go to this website, and I'm going to show you these are not eligible. This is just an example of the sample. Number 70. Number 70. Conducted 8/14. This is the Michigan, but you can read the sample, the total sample on this website. Conducted 8/14 to 8/23. 1,048 responders. Likely 2020 general. Likely, okay. The margin of error and confidence, 95%. 95% of the people polled, 100% likely to vote, 95% very confident in who they're voting for. Okay, they want to leave this totally alone. Give me number 30. Give me number 33. This is what they're trying to sell you this morning. Number 33. Okay. President Trump's handling of the coronavirus, only 35% approved. These are the polls they're moving to now. And talking about Joe Biden's high favorability ratings. This is what they're trying to push because they can't talk about the polls I just put up. Number 32. We showed you that, 6 points. And then number 31, Joe Biden's favorability, 46% favorability, up 6. Let me tell you what Joe Biden's favorability means, and nothing more, nothing less. It's the kind of guy you might visit in the home. Yeah, I'd go by and see Joe in the home. I mean, that's it. I told you there is one part I want to show you if I can find it. Damn, this traffic jam. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I thought I had it. 6, count them, 6 mayors in Minnesota have endorsed. 6 mayors in Minnesota have endorsed the President of the United States. And let me get this poll for you. The poll is Trafalgar, the Trafalgar Group. I think that's who they are. Okay. And the Trafalgar Group, you can go on here and get every one of these polls. I'm telling you, the polls. All right. I'm telling you, the Democrats are in deep trouble. I'm showing you in black and white what's going on. They had to pull up an eligible voter poll to get something good for Psycho Joe to report. We're going to take, just don't go to, we're not going to break. We're going to take like 10 seconds, okay, to get our guest in. Our first guest, Madison Cawthorn, Republican from the 11th Congressional District in North Carolina. We're going to take 2-3 seconds to get him in, so don't go anywhere. Let's get our guest in here now for our first interview. Hey, sorry about that, folks. Where's our interview? I'm sorry. Where's our interview? I thought we had our guest on. Sorry about that. Thought we got our guest on. All right, folks, we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and we are North Georgia and Western North Carolina's only online morning show. Now, our next guest we're about to bring in spoke at the Republican National Convention, would be, if elected in November, will be the youngest member of Congress in 200 years. And I want to say this before I bring our guest in. Sent shockwaves. Now, this is just a clip out of the media. One of the articles sent shockwaves through Washington in June when he unexpectedly won the GOP primary runoff in North Carolina. Congressional seat left vacant by White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. I will start the interview by telling our guest, it was not unexpected by me. So I want to clear that up. Now joining us, Republican candidate for North Carolina's 11th Congressional District, Madison Cawthorn. How are you, sir?
Brian, I'm doing great. It's an honor to be on, my friend.
We'll make it quick. I know you got to go to a lot of things and you're on a cell, so we'll try to get through and power through this. You spoke at the Republican National Convention. I've highlighted a couple areas of your speech that night. And it seems like you were speaking directly to all Americans, but especially young Americans, and the possibility and the bright future we have in this country. I'll be the youngest member of Congress in over 200 years. And if you don't think young people can change the world, then you just don't know American history. George Washington was 21 when he received his first military commission, Abe Lincoln 22 when he ran for office the first time, and my personal favorite, Madison, was just 25 years old when he signed the Declaration of Independence. So you highlighted that you would be 25 if elected in November when you go to Congress. Tell us a little bit of why you spoke directly to young people in the bright future of this country.
Mainly because I feel like the Republican Party have really had poor messaging for the last few decades, and it's really alienated a significant amount of the portion of the population that's really 40 years and below. We've kind of become the party of no, or the party of incremental GDP growth. Whereas in reality, the conservative doctrine is one that just speaks to local issues, what I like to call dining room politics, what really affects these young families sitting around their dinner table with their children. They want to make sure that they're safe. They want to make sure they have good taxes. They want to make sure they can afford a nice home, low interest rates. They want to make sure their kids can enjoy receiving the legacy of a great America they can then carry on.
Madison, are you still there?
Hey, I'm still here,
Yeah,
Brian.
just
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just making sure. Well, here's another line from your speech. We are committed to building a new town square, which I really enjoyed that. It welcomes all ideals and all people. Here, we will have freedom of speech, not freedom from speech, to liberals. Now, this is where you spoke directly to liberals. I say, let's have the conversation, be a true liberal, listen to others, and let the best ones prevail. Okay, tell me why you highlighted liberals in your speech the other night at the convention.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm realizing that the majority of the speakers were just going to be there in an effort to reelect Donald Trump, which is of utmost importance. I realized that I had an opportunity to really speak to this disenfranchised left that feels like the right doesn't have anything to talk to them about. Because what I think is going on in our country is we're experiencing cancel culture. And what I mean by cancel culture is that in this age of technology, and I mentioned in my speech, that it's an age of information without wisdom. And that means that, sure, we may have more information than any generation before us has ever had, but we don't have the wisdom to sit down and actually talk about the ideas that might be uncomfortable for us, that might offend us. And so I want to live in a town square, a new town square, where we have these social media platforms where we can be free to share our ideas and our ideals without fear of persecution or of somebody trying to cancel you or, as a lot of people say, dox you. And so in my opinion, I genuinely believe our country is better when we can have a true conversation and let the best ideas prevail. And that's something I think is missing in the Liberal Party. They seem to want everybody to be a monolith, whereas I think we should all, instead of voting for parties, we should vote for the person with the best ideas for our country.
Well, you talked about fear of persecution, the fear of persecution. Let me just bring this up and get your thoughts on this, Madison. I spoke with Georgia State Representative Vernon Jones this weekend.
What a great speech! What a great speech, by the way.
Absolutely, and I spoke with him this past weekend after what the media is calling. They're calling what happened with Senator Rand Paul, his wife, Vernon Jones, his guest. They're saying Trump supporters, confronted by protesters as they left the White House. And they're talking about, they say, supporters encountering. But Vernon Jones, Rand Paul, and his wife tell a different story. They were actually they were in fear of their life. So fear of persecution. Are you concerned that the media continues to call things like what happened Thursday night with Rand Paul and Vernon Jones encountering peaceful protesters when they feel they encountered fear for their life? Vernon Jones said, quote, "I was in fear for my life."
I will tell you, I don't have to sit here and try and understand what Rand Paul was feeling or what Vernon Jones was feeling. I experienced the exact same thing. My fiance and I were at the exact same event, and fortunately, we went a couple blocks down, so we didn't go through the main thick of the crowd. But we still face a good bit of persecution. These people are violent. They're aggressive. And, I mean, you just heard it about 9 to 10 months ago. Maxine Waters was saying, don't give them any peace. Get in their face. Go to where they eat. Go to where they work. And that's exactly that's wanted. And now you're seeing that really come to life. And you know what? It is something that I think that is cowardly. These people will attack members of Congress because they know that it would make it national headlines. A member of Congress would strike them back. But these cowards, you never see them at a Bikers for Trump rally. You never see them around real rough men who would do them harm. It's because they're cowards. It's because they're weak and they want to hide in their mom's basement because they don't have a job and they're losers.
Well, Madison, it's a great point that you bring up because I attended a Bikers for Trump rally a couple months ago with about 200 members there. All great people, by the way, just great Americans. But you're 100% right. They don't show up there to take on a Bikers for Trump rally, but someone walking home for so you experienced that also Thursday night.
I did. By no means was it to the extent that Senator Paul did, but we did face some persecution. Several people yelling at us, throwing things at us, but it was just, again, it was just, you almost felt sorry for them.
Well, I guess where I'm getting at is the media is misleading, and most of the media, and not including ourselves, but the media is misleading the American people by portraying an encounter. They say Trump supporters encountered protesters and peaceful protests. So what they're trying to paint is exactly not what's happening. And when Americans are in fear to walk down the street after leaving an event, no matter what it may be, to walk back to their hotel rooms, that needs to stop in this country, is my opinion.
I totally agree with you. I'm very thankful that the D.C. Metro Police kept Senator Paul safe and all our other Republicans, because I'll tell you, this is not what America's supposed to be like. I mean, this seems like the night of long knives right before the Nazi Party took power in the early 1930s. And so I really just resent the way our country's going. I resent the way this party is going. I resent that they are not only that they're tacitly condoning violence by remaining silent on this. Both the media and their partners in the Democratic Party, they're in cahoots, and they're trying to keep people afraid. But I'll tell you, like I said in my speech, we as Americans, we kneel before our God. So we're loving, we're accepting, we're tolerant people. But we also stand for our flag. And that means that we are patriotic and we are courageous. We're not going to back down to these pencil-neck losers. We're going to stand up and we will fight. So don't keep pushing us, because when we start pushing back, you'll feel it.
I got about 2 or 3 more things, and we'll wrap it up. I know you're busy from one interview to the next, and I appreciate you taking the time. First, your speech at the convention. Who made that decision? Did you make that decision alone to stand? And let me say this, as you were standing, you were saying, I say to America who love our country, young and old, be a radical for freedom, be a radical for liberty, and be a radical for our republic for which I stand. As you were reciting that, you stood one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. Who made that decision for you to do that, and why was that important for you to do that?
Oh, that was my idea. I just really believed that I wanted to show that in our country, and the reason I had both of my staffers come out on stage with me is to show that in America we lift each other up. I think that it's very symbolic to have the number of 3 people out there. We have 3 branches of government. You have the Holy Trinity. There's so many parts. You have 3 real main branches of the nuclear family. And so I really just thought that it was a beautiful imagery of, in America, we lift one another up. We don't hold each other down. But the reason why I continue to use the word radical is because I want to take that word back. Because right now it is mainstream to be an anarchist. It's mainstream to be someone who wants to put on a black mask and go intimidate people. But what's revolutionary, what's radical, is to be someone that stands for Judeo-Christian values, to be somebody that stands for our Constitution and our human rights that precede any form of government. And also, it's patriotic and it's radical to stand up for the exact same values that our founding fathers fought for 244 years ago. And so I think it's a time for us it's a call to all of the silent majority. It's time for us to be radical. It's time for us to get loud. It's time for us to fight back because our country's at risk.
When you saying that, there was a time when I was very open to having a discussion with liberal topics with people. And I think we ought to take liberal back in a way, because now liberal is not what they're portraying. It is radical left, as you say. You want to take it is a radical left topic, mindset with anarchy and, to me, and violence and the Green New Deal. The list goes on. Hey, that was great. I enjoyed it. Every night of the week, I have to admit, I pushed tears back. We enjoyed your speech. Who did you enjoy meeting this week? And I know it's going to be hard because the Republicans did such an amazing job with the convention. I wrote this down this morning. I'm watching the media. They're trying to play down the Republican convention, and the media is trying to pump up the Democrat convention. The electricity was in the air. Who did you enjoy meeting this past week at the convention?
Number one speech I enjoyed the most is also the number one person I enjoyed meeting the most. It was Herschel Walker. First of all, just what a man. And you could just feel the power in it. It was incredible. But, he was so down to earth. He was so caring, so kind. And it was actually really funny because he was actually fighting through to take a picture with me, whereas, he's one of my biggest heroes. So it was a really big deal to get to meet Herschel Walker. I really enjoyed that. And I loved his speech. I thought it was so moving, so powerful.
I thought it was great. He took on racism and the president being attacked as a racist or called a racist, and he looked at the camera and he said, "Are you trying to tell me I've been friends with a racist for 37 years and I didn't recognize it?" So you're 100% right. That was powerful. Let's move to the critics. The audacity, this is one headline, the audacity of Madison Cawthorn, his grandstanding was not an inspiration. It was an insult to the disability movement. Let me say this. If you turned into the full Republican National Convention last night, you saw Madison Cawthorn speak and also saw him end his speech by standing from a wheelchair. He stood, as he said, for the flag. What do you say about the critics that took on? And I will tell you, the first time you came on this show and we interviewed, I didn't even mention you being in a wheelchair because I was more interested in people meeting you, the candidate, and you know what I'm saying. So I never even brought it up. But what do you say about your critics that took you on for what you did at the convention?
Oh, well, you know what? That's actually the first time I am hearing that. But that's I realize now that you're illuminating a lot of things that I guess have been said. But that's something that I really don't understand their purpose behind that language and that rhetoric. To me, I don't define myself as someone who's disabled. I define myself as an American. I sure my life's a little more difficult, but anyone who said that was an insult to the disabled community in America, I kind of got to scratch my head and I wonder why. But anyways, furthermore, I want to say that thank you so much for having me on this show. It was such a pleasure, and I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Can you quickly tell us if there's internal polls how North Carolina is leaning Democrat, Republican for the president? What do you see in North Carolina before we close?
I'll tell you as much as I can is that internal polls have this race very, very close for the presidency. So we're looking to try and up his voter turnout out here on the western side because I know we'll pull out a lot of votes for the president. But you know what? It's going to be a tough race. But I think because you have Laura Trump and Eric Trump leading the efforts here, I think we're going to see a victory in November for the president.
Thank you, Mr. Cawthorn. We appreciate it a lot, and we wish you well in your campaign. All right, folks.
Okay, hey. Thank you. Have a good day, sir.
All right, folks. Madison Cawthorn. As you could hear, his most inspirational speech to him was Herschel Walker, and it's great. I enjoy talking to, and that is our show today. Everyone on the show today was in attendance at the Republican National Convention this past week. I wanted to bring that up. Let me give you the source because there are some out there. I started reading some accounts, and this is from the Medium. It's called the Medium.com. The audacity of Madison Cawthorn. I just thought it was a disgrace for them to write this, but I wanted to bring this to his attention. Hey, we appreciate, I'm going to call him young man. He's 25 years old. An exciting young man wants to take a great message to Washington, D.C. from the 11th Congressional District of North Carolina. We're going to take the Republican candidate. We're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World has 9-piece living room packages at incredible prices. Get this stylish sofa and love seat, 3 tables, 2 lamps, 43-inch 4K TV, and stand, all for only $1699.99 or $129.99 a month. Or get this 9-piece living room and reclining sofa and reclining love seat, now only $1999.99 or $149.99 a month. These packages are amazing. Stop in today at one of our 5 locations and get the furniture you've always wanted at Circuit World.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is more than just your average Ace. We have a huge selection of Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next trip. We have a huge selection of lumber for your next building project. And we have Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs. Plus, we have everything you'd expect like paint, tools, and equipment. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
Hey, that's our good friend Madison Cawthorn. I appreciate him very much. Great young man. Folks, if you think there is, if you're concerned about the future of this country and you see some things going on with young Americans, this is a 25-year-old young American that you can be excited about for the future of this country. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. North Georgia's only live online morning show. We're going to get in about 6 minutes. We're going to get into the conversation with our friend Vernon Jones. You're going to really enjoy this one. Very lengthy interview, but we go over a lot of stuff. Why doesn't CNN ask him to be on the show? Why doesn't MSNBC ever call him and ask him to be on the show? What happened Thursday night? What was his conversation like with the President of the United States? What's it like to be a Democrat speaking at the Republican National Convention? Will he campaign for the President of the United States in this last 8 weeks that are in front of us? So we'll talk to him in just a minute. There's 2 segments I want to do here quickly, okay? Number one, I want to do, we're going to talk about Portland, okay? You don't want to leave. Right after Vernon Jones, I'm going to do a very good segment on Portland. Let me just say this. CNN said, and we'll get into this, okay, because I have it here somewhere. I had it here just a minute ago. Sorry about that. All of my numbers for my, hell, where the hell's all my show numbers for my picks? CNN, give me number. Where is it at? Where is it at? It's not going to be hard to find here. CNN. Apologize for the delay, but I want to find it. And there we go. Look at this, folks. 57. 57. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the Portland jackass mayor. That's my bad, as the brothers say. Okay. Give me number 59. This is the one I want. 59. Okay. Portland. Man killed in Portland protest wore far right hat. Really? You typed that on the screen. He wore a far right hat. So are you implying it's open season, as Elmer Fudd would say, on mega hat wearers? Damn, look at these hats I have on the desk. Concerned about getting shot. Seriously. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's do 2 quick segments. One is only going to last a minute, okay? And we're ready. This segment's our COVID-19, okay? And I just want to leave this out here, all right? Look this up today in your research. 76, number 76, okay? New CDC report shows 94% of COVID-19 deaths in U.S. had contributing conditions. 94% had contributing conditions. Now, I have said on this show how many times for months, and so many others are saying this, but we get attacked for it and called insensitive. My dad, let's be clear, yes, my dad died with COVID-19. With. Okay. There's 2 categories. The people that have died with COVID-19 and from COVID-19. Okay. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but give me number 77. 77. Okay. 77. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released new data last week that depicts how many Americans who have died with COVID-19 also had contributing conditions. Now, we're not making light of the virus. We just want it reported correctly, because when these athletes and Major League Baseball and when schools, and that we know that children are not dying from it, okay, according to the report, only 6% of deaths have COVID-19 as the only cause mentioned. One more time, revealing that 94% of patients who died from coronavirus also had other health conditions and contributing causes. Only 6%. And we closed the nation. We closed the entire country. We closed down. We created the Democrats created an orchestrated economic disaster, and 6%. Now, we're not making light of it, So that is one thing I wanted to bring up for you to look at today. All right. Now, let's do another quick segment. I told you this. They're talking about, if we're talking about every show you turn on, they're running, the networks are helping. They're calling it Donald Trump's America. Donald Trump's America, okay? And Donald Trump's America, all right, is what they're saying. I told you this, and I want you to pay attention to this. I'm going to run through this very quick. The media is helping out. Now, for how many months? Don't forget, it's been 90-some days in Portland. And now the mayor and the Kenosha, the mayor, Portland mayor, and the Wisconsin Governor Evers, they don't want Donald Trump to visit. They don't want them to get involved. Portland's over 90 days. You do realize Kyle Rittenhouse, is that his name? Everything is taking place if the governor of Oregon and the mayor and the governor of Wisconsin, Evers, and the mayor of Kenosha, if they would have stopped this on night one, what you see now would not have happened. None of this would have happened. But they didn't. They allowed it to happen because why? They wanted it to happen to a point where they could finally say Trump supporter versus peaceful protester. Okay, we'll get into that a little later. I told you one of the concerns I had between now and the election, I thought 3 weeks, but now it's going to be 8 weeks. But Joe Biden would come out of his hole and he would hold his hands up like Moses parting the Red Sea, and he would condemn and calm the violence. Be careful of what they're trying to do here, okay? Be careful of what they're trying to do. They're setting up Donald Trump's America to give you the subliminal message that this is caused by Donald Trump, and then they plan for Joe Biden to calm it down and be the only way we can keep peace and unite our country. Just make sure you understand that's out there, okay? So give me these pictures, number 24. Number 24, as you can see this morning, we'll give you some examples. Biden shooting in the streets of Great America City is unacceptable, okay? 24. 25. On Monday, August 31st, Joe Biden will travel to southwestern Pennsylvania to lay out a core question voters face in the election. Are you safe in Donald Trump's America? I told you this was coming. Number 26, Biden's statement on deadly violence in Portland, shooting in the streets of the great American city is unacceptable. Now they're all great American cities. Great American cities. No, they're not. They're Democrat decay rat holes is what they are. But it's unacceptable. Told you. Now, here's number 27. As they are continuing to try to carry the water for Biden. Biden condemns deadly violence in Portland, right? Let's go now to 53. CNN gets in on it. Here's CNN carrying the water. Biden condemns Portland violence, calls on Trump to do the same. Trump has asked for the mayor and the governor because they made a big deal. A big deal out there in Minnesota. By the way, George Floyd had a lethal amount of fentanyl in his system when he died. Lethal amount of fentanyl, an illegal drug, like a heroin. And here you go. So Trump has asked these states to get this under control for months. But all of a sudden, Biden's condemning it. He's calling for Trump to do the same. There's CNN. That's 53. Give me 54. Biden expected to contrast views with Trump in speech today. Okay. 55. All right. 55. Effort underway to curb Portland protest. And give me number 68. 68. There's Psycho Joe. Okay. And Minka this morning. Biden condemns deadly violence in Portland. Yes, I told you, be careful. This is the turn they hope to make. And they do hope now they could tell the people to go home, and it will look like Joe Biden has just this great unifying calmness about him. I'm not saying that jokingly. I know what they're trying to do. We're going to take like just a 10-second break. I've got to get my next guest here. I'm looking at the clock. I got to get my next guest in here. This is going to, we never get on the phone. We don't spend a lot of time, but you're going to enjoy this interview I have queued up and coming up right now. Vernon Jones. Let's get him on for our next interview. Hey, folks, joining us now, Georgia State House of Representatives, Democrat Vernon Jones. Before we bring him into the conversation, he's a lifelong Democrat, member of the House of Representatives here in Georgia, spoke at the Republican National Convention this past week, identifies himself as a man of color. We're going to get into that. Joining us now, Mr. Vernon Jones. How are you today, sir?
Doing fine. Thank you for having me, my friend.
I want to get into the convention, and there's a couple things. I have gone through your transcript. I've watched your speech at the convention a couple times, and I've gone through the transcript. You are endorsing and supporting the President of the United States as a man of color, lifelong Democrat. But I also want to close today with what you encountered leaving the reception after that great speech by the president. Let's start there. I want to ask you one question right out of the box. Who did you meet this week up there at the Republican National Convention as a Democrat? Who did you meet this week that you really enjoyed talking to or getting a chance to meet?
This is going to be crazy. I met so many people, from Peter Navarro to a lot of just heartland American supporters of the president. Marla Maples. I can't remember all of them, but just so many. But the person that I remember the most is the Pillow Man, My Pillow.
Yes,
Oh man,
Lindell, right? Lindell.
Yes. Oh, great American, loves his country, loves providing jobs for Americans. Want to help the president any way he can. I mean, oh man, that he is the man, Mr. Pillow Man, My Pillow. But a lot of great people there. Even the guy Rick from Pawn Stars, Pawn.
Yeah.
Shop,
Okay.
let me say that. From the has a Vegas pawn shop. Yeah, he was there, big supporter of the president. But Mrs. Alice Johnson, I met her too. The lady who the president not only commuted her sentence, but on yesterday, or day before yesterday, the president actually gave her a full pardon. And to hear her story, it was amazing. And David Dorn's wife, Mrs. Dorn.
Yes.
The police former police chief that was killed in St. Louis when they raided one of those stores and shot him down. To meet her too, that was sobering to meet both of those because of their experiences. But a lot of great people there.
Well, you know what? It was a connection. I thought the convention was a real connection with the American people. And what I will admit is, Mr. Jones, what I will admit is every single night I found myself pushing back tears. I have to admit that. Okay. Yeah. It was just amazing, the electricity of the night. Let me go through. I actually put in bold, and these are quotes right out of your speech. I got the transcript here. I want to touch on the first one. As you can see, I'm a man of color, and I'm a lifelong Democrat too. You may be wondering, why is a lifelong Democrat speaking at the Republican National Convention? That's a fair question. Here's your answer. The Democrat Party does not want black people to leave their mental plantation. Very bold statement. How did you get the call to speak there? And what was your thought about being a Democrat and actually going to the Republican convention to speak? A comment on this statement I just that you made that night.
Well, first of all, I'm in this to win it. I support this president. He's about results. And Joe Biden has been nothing but a groundhog, and we don't need him to lead this country. I wasn't expecting that call. When I got the call that the president would like for me to speak, I was honored to do so. It was for my country, it's for my fellow Americans. And you know, the thing about this particular convention, he really picked people from all walks of life, real life experiences, real Americans, no politicians, no, you know, I mean, it was just from Miss Alice Johnson, who came from prison after 20 years, and the president supported her. It was Mrs. Dorn, David Dorn's wife. By the way, she's a police officer herself. I didn't know that. She's a sergeant. You know, the first responders, recognizing them and their hard work. People who started their businesses. This president was just, this whole convention was about the American people. Unlike the Democratic Party, it was about doom and gloom. This was about how great America is and how great Americans are, and that the best is yet to come. And so it was an honor to do so. And let me tell you this, this president worked harder than any president I've known in the past maybe 40 years. He's up and at it. He cares about America. He cares about the American people. And it was just an honor to be there. I would never forget this. I tell you this, when I was county executive, and all my lifetime being a Democrat, the Democratic Party has never asked me to do anything. Not one single time, at the state level or the national level. So it just goes to say they just take blacks for granted, as I've been saying all along.
All right, take blacks for granted. Dig in a little deeper. Just explain what you mean, and I think you touched on it there. The Democratic Party does not want black people to leave the mental plantation. What is the mental plantation?
The mental plantation is this. Look, Democrats, we're for you. We love you. Republicans hate you. Let us take care of you. Let us keep you on a crutch. Let us keep you wanting the government to give you all your assistance. Let us build you a Habitat house, but not in our neighborhoods. Let us tell you who you should vote for. As a matter of fact, you just vote with anybody who has a D beside their name, regardless. That's the marching orders. You don't need to think. You just need to go and vote for somebody or anybody who has a D beside their name. And when you start to break away from that, start to like, wait a minute. But I've been voting for Democrats for the past 40 some odd years, and where has it gotten me? Nowhere. Where's the Democratic Party gotten the African American community? Nowhere. But what has President Trump done in the past 3.5 years? Well, he's come out with criminal justice reform, which clearly is a repeal of what Joe Biden did with the crime bill in '94 that locked up masses of black men and women. Historical black colleges. I'm a proud graduate of North Carolina Central University myself. Not only did he restore funding from the previous administration, but he came back and he wrote it into law. Opportunity zone districts, those investments are targeted for those communities who've been left behind to do job creation and economic development. But this president hasn't left anybody behind, black, white, brown, whatever, small businesses, big businesses, helping new businesses. He stood up to China and all the other countries with unfair trade. This president has brought everybody along, and he stands for law and order, unlike Joe Biden and that crowd that want these crazy Antifa and Black Lives Matter groups to destroy our cities. But actually, you know, that was their winning strategy in their minds. Let these cities burn and let's blame it on the president. But now those suburban moms and others are tired of these riots. The white voters in these suburbs, the white female, they see that these mobs are coming out to where they live now. And so people are tired of that. And now all of a sudden, the liberal media who was pushing for it and calling it non-violent protest, now they're trying to say, from the Don Lemons to the Chris Cuomo, well, now we have to stop the violence. Oh, yeah. Why? Only because they see it reflecting in the polls.
Exactly.
That people want law and order.
Exactly. Stop the violence was not a consideration until the narrowing of the polls and people start saying, wait a minute, this is out of line. I want to take a couple more quotes, and you have already touched on this because this is no time for sleeping in the basement. Joe Biden has 47 years to produce results, but he's been all talk and no action, just like so many of the Democrats who have been making promises to black voters for decades. We've been a captive audience. So you touched on that captive audience, and you throughout the Democrat Party, I mean, for the ones that still talk to you or send you secret messages because they probably can't do it in public. Is that something that I think black American voters know who Joe Biden incarcerated? I think they know that. I think that story is out there. And I do think Democrats are concerned that if Joe didn't do something in 47 years, he's not going to do it now. What say you?
Well, that's the whole issue. They have literally had the black community as a captive audience. They didn't need to earn their vote.
Right.
And now that they see that Donald Trump, as a matter of fact, Donald Trump has done more to earn the African American vote than any other president in my lifetime. And they are afraid because he has broken the ranks. He has convinced, and he's convincing more and more blacks to come on his side, and Latinos, by the way, and other Democrats too, who see that the Democratic Party has gone so far left where they don't care about this country anymore. They don't care about borders. They just want to just bring people in here illegally. I'm for immigration as long as it's done orderly, but they just want to have open borders. They literally are defunding the police department. They are turning their back on police officers, those who protect us day in and day out. And black people want safe communities too. They support law enforcement officers. They just want it to be fair, and they want it to be just and treated according to their rights, their constitutional rights. But what's interesting, the Democratic Party is realizing, holy crap, Donald Trump is eating into a base that we've had for the last 50 years. And it's killing them, and they're horrified and terrified about it, and they want to silence me. You know, the liberal media do not call me. The CNNs, the MSNBCs, ABC, NBC, they don't call. The one time I got a call from MSNBC was when I shut that reporter down when he said that I was being paid by Donald Trump. They don't want me out there. They want to put blacks on their shows that are behaved, that's carrying their narrative. And I just,
I have to tell you, don't take this wrong, but that bothers me when I hear you say that, and it's not you yourself. But when I hear you say they want blacks on their shows that will behave, and I'm going to tell you, that hits me hard. That just steams me, because even when you stand on the stage and say, I am a man of color, and like I said, I understand where you're coming from. I would like to get it to, we don't have to identify you're a man of color. You're just somebody on the stage giving us, you know what I mean? Right. And you're 100% right. The media, you're right. When they want somebody that will behave, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject in there, but
no, that's okay. That's okay. But when President Trump had black people talking at the Republican convention, they were talking about what this president has done to help them, his track record. But the black people that were on the show on the Democratic convention stage, none of them were able to go back and say, this is what Joe Biden has done for black people in the black community. None of them, not a single one of them.
When you say that, I was watching, and you're 100% right. To me, what the president highlighted, and it had nothing to do with your color of your skin,
right?
And that's what has their head spinning off. Now, the segment they did with the naturalization and citizenship, those were 5 people from 5 different countries, men and women, that did it the right way. They came to this country the correct way, and they went through the process, and they're now proud citizens of the United States. One that got me, and I'm like you, the list is so long, is the pardon of John Ponder. That has given me just shakes for almost a week now, the pardon of John Ponder, and the fact that the President of the United States, and when you said behave, the President of the United States promised this man, okay, this is a bank robber, guy that's been in prison, he just got out, he comes to the National Day of Prayer, and he looks at the man and he said, I'm going to come to one of those graduations. And as simple as that promise was to John, he showed up at one. And he told them, Mr. Jones, he told him, he said, I can only stay 5 minutes. He stayed an hour and a half. 29 of those graduates, he shook all their hands and talked to them that day and encouraged them. That doesn't get out. Sorry, sir.
It doesn't. It doesn't. See, but the narrative shaped by the liberal media, they don't want the American people, black or white, to know the fine job that this president is doing. And this president deserves 4 more years. How in the hell can you give Joe Biden 47 and he's asking for another 4 that would take him to 51 and doesn't have a track record at all? And here's a president that's just been in just 3.5 years. He's just asking for 4 more to finish the job. And I can tell you, we need him to get us back to where we were prior to the pandemic. And, you know, his tax cuts, I don't care what anyone says, his tax cuts is one of the main things that's getting us through this pandemic and keeping jobs being created. And the Wall Street numbers are still breaking records because of his ability to understand the job market, how to put America back to work, how to still deal with that pandemic and not have a message of fear. The Democrats have a message of fear. President Trump has a message of accomplishments and more to come. And so that's the big difference. Joe Biden has a dream. If you elect me, I'll get it right this time. And President Trump has a record. Look, here's what I've done, and here's what we can continue to do.
2 quick things, and we'll let you go. And we appreciate you taking your time out today. We know you're busy, and you have you probably have so many interviews scheduled. The couple times that we have talked, it's really important to you, and it's something that you're very passionate about. This is your quote: I attended North Carolina Central University, a historic black college for generations. HBCUs have been the incubators that developed black scholars in math and science and religion, engineering, and politics. They have been important springboards for the black success, but Democrats haven't treated them that way. This is really big. We're talking about big stuff that doesn't get out, that the young black Americans in this country should be very proud of, is what the president has done to fund those colleges and give them an opportunity and an education.
Well, let me say this. Again, I am proud to have graduated from HBCU because that's where blacks had to go when they couldn't go to white schools. But there's something that I want everybody, black and white, to know, certainly in the white community. A lot of whites attend historical black colleges now. And they're producing still some of the best scholars in all those areas just mentioned, including we've had governors and Supreme Court justices that are white that have come from those schools. And so it's not just a school for blacks, but because just like the Harvards and the Yales have their long tradition in history, these HBCUs has it as well. And it has produced the likes of many of us, including Dr. Martin Luther King and Vernon Jordan and Maynard Jackson. All of them have had to walk the hallowed grounds of those universities, and it gave them the training and the education they need to achieve in subsequent life. But it's open to everybody. And so I'm proud of that institution. I'm just as proud of that school as I am University of Georgia. I'm just proud of the education where people have opportunity to go and get education because it changes their lives for the good, and it changes America for the good. And so this president has been instrumental, and he understands it. Where Obama was looking at merging and closing those HBCUs, that's what he wanted to do, and he got a little trouble with the black community, and he backed off of it. That goes to show you he didn't have a clue. He didn't understand because he's all Ivy League from one end to the other. And so thank you for even acknowledging and recognizing the importance of HBCUs.
All right, I want to move to this last subject matter. I don't know how much time we can spend on it, but I'd like to get a little bit on it here. Most people are asking about as much what took place after the reception and the president's speech. Let me read two more quotes and move it in that direction, because in your speech you said Democrats have turned their backs on our brave police officers. They call it defunding, and it's dangerous to our cities, neighborhoods, and our children. And you went on to say at the end of your speech, the Democratic Party has become infected with a pandemic of intolerance, bigotry, socialism, anti-law enforcement bias, and a dangerous tolerance for people who attack others, destroy their property, and terrorize their own communities. Exactly what you said. First of all, we want to say we're very sorry for what you had to endure, you and your guest, as you were leaving the reception after the President of the United States speech Thursday night. You were accosted. Tell us what took place as you were trying to get to your hotel with your guest. Tell us what happened there.
Well, just like I said in that speech, was on a Monday. That was a Monday night. I talked about it then, and lo and behold, just a few days later on a Thursday, not that I haven't been experiencing this hostile environment through social media or other means, but here's where it was actually, I confronted it head on physically, where this mob, and I call it a mob, that's what they were a lynching mob. They were demonic, they were nasty, they were white, they were black, and they were, the one thread that they all had in common was that they were mean and that they were Democrats. And they were Joe Biden supporters. And just leaving, like many of us, including Rand Paul and the other congressman who walks on prosthetic legs, they confronted, it was just evil. And just a few blocks, because we couldn't catch Uber because of the rioting that was going on, so we had to walk. Here we are walking, and all of a sudden it was 5 people yelling at us. Then it was seconds later 25, and then it was like 75, then over 125 plus, and they were just coming at us all kind of ways, and just right in them, just at the height of it, as they were gathering upon us, here comes some police officers on bicycles, and they made their way through the crowd. They surrounded us. They said, "Y'all need help?" I said, "Yeah, clearly, yes, we need some help." And he said, "Look, just," they were like, "Follow us." And "Where are you going?" I said, "Our hotel is about a block away." And they were using their bikes as barricades. And the hurling of insults and the racial epithets and the threats, if those officers were not there, I'm going to tell you right now, I would not be having this kind of conversation with you. I may not be having this conversation with you at all.
That's what I wanted to ask you there, and I don't mean to interrupt you. Yes, I watched the video. I've read the accounts. I watched Rand Paul, his wife, make a statement that she was actually in fear for her life. And this is not peaceful. The other networks, this is not peaceful protest trying to intimidate and put people in fear of their life. Peaceful protest should never involve somebody's fear for their life. Some of the things they yelled at you: "Are you a black Trump supporter? You effing disgrace, shame." And
the N-word.
Yes,
the N-word,
yes.
the N-word,
they said.
Yeah.
You house N-word. I mean, I sent you, and our audience should know, I sent you a message over the weekend saying, I hope you were okay, and I apologize. I apologize for the hate you had to endure. But was it as Rand Paul and them? Was it possibly life-threatening? Did you and your guest?
It wasn't possibly. Let me be clear. It wasn't possibly life-threatening. It was life-threatening.
Okay.
If I had been armed with a weapon, it would have been a different result, I can tell you that, because I and my guests were threatened. And I can tell you this, they know these cities that have these restrictive gun laws. And I think that's part of their whole overall organized plan too. They know the Democrats have these restrictive gun laws. You can't protect yourself from stuff like this. And the media did report mostly peaceful. Well, it wasn't peaceful for me and my guests. It wasn't peaceful for Rand Paul and many others who came from there.
Right.
The fact of it is, you called me, you texted me to see how I was doing. I haven't had a single call from Joe Biden or call from Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Kamala Harris, nobody from the DNC. And nobody from the liberal media has contacted me to share my story about what had happened, how my life was threatened. And my guest's life was threatened by these Democrats, by these terrorists, these domestic terrorists under the name of Black Lives Matter. I am a black life. My guest was a black life. Why did our black lives matter? That's the hypocrisy. That's why I said Black Lives Matter is a hoax. They've been funded by Antifa and those other groups, George Soros, to really destroy the freedom of expression, our constitutional right to express our choice in terms of who we want or who we feel that best can lead this country.
You know, I'm exactly with you on that, because I was thinking immediately, it doesn't matter if it was a Republican convention. It doesn't matter. Citizens, law-abiding citizens of the United States were trying to cross the street, go to a hotel room. Joe Biden should have come out and said, I don't care where it was at. This is unacceptable to try to intimidate and put fear into American cities, citizens on our streets in the city. And I think somebody should have came out and denounced it, and they won't. And that's why when they get mad that they say, well, Democrats aren't saying defund the police, or they're not in favor of this. Their lack of you know, coming out and condemning it is showing signs of supporting it.
Well, clearly, because you got to understand, they do not have a strategy to beat the president, because they can't beat him on job creation. They can't beat him on standing up these other countries with fair trade. They can't beat him on helping the black community. They can't beat him on anything. The only thing that they can beat him on is that they're hoping with these cities being destructive and being destroyed by these terrorists, that the voters will blame President Trump like they blamed him on the China virus. And by the way, why is he a racist because he says China virus? It's from China. It's not from North Georgia. It's not from California. It's not from Portland. It's from China.
Herschel
But they
Walker,
want to blame that on the president.
Herschel Walker said it best. Herschel Walker dropped the mic on it for me. He's not a racist. Don't tell me I've been hanging out with a racist for 37 years. I would have caught on. So, I mean, I really like that point, and I agree with you. Everything, he's a racist. Did your guest feel her
But
life?
ironically, the Democrats are the racists. The Democrats are the biggest.
Yes, they are.
That's the ironic thing about it. But yes, my guest felt intimidated. My guest felt that her life was threatened. Clearly, absolutely. And to be thrust into the limelight like that, to be thrust, here's a private citizen, to be thrust with all these folks hurling these insults to her, when she had done nothing to nobody, a black female being yelled at by other black females and berated, and where are women's groups? Where are these women groups that should be calling out these young ladies and say, wait a minute, that's not how young ladies act. That's unbehaving, unbecoming. If you want to protest, fine, but the things that you're saying, the filth and the garbage is coming out of your mouth.
Well, we do understand the problem. We do understand the problem. The problem is, as you said earlier, you did not behave, because you did not behave as the liberal networks or the the Democrat Party feel the mental plantation and behavior. Those were your words. Because you did not behave and you spoke your mind on how you felt, that's what you had to endure, the wrath. And that's what, I think there's a lot of black Americans, along with white Americans, Americans in general, that are voting for the President of the United States, just do not want to put up with this kind of intolerance. Quick question, do you think, and I'll let you go, do you think two of them, do you think the President of the United States really is in this, or the polling data they have for Joe Biden, is it shrinking so fast the Democrats are in serious concern, panic, worried about this election?
Let me say this. There are many white people. There are many white people, good white people, who want to do the right thing, who want to and will vote for Donald Trump, but they're afraid to say anything because they don't want to be attacked. They don't want to be called a racist for supporting Donald Trump. There are many black people, good black people, who want to support Donald Trump and will support Donald Trump, but they don't want to be called a sellout or Uncle Tom. That's why, and this is the replay of 2016, they're going to be the majority silent voters that are going to go to the polls and they're going to elect Donald Trump. Why? Because they see what's happening. With Democrats, there's no law and order. With Democrats, that's where the real bigotry is. With Democrats, they want to tax, and Joe Biden already said he's going to raise our taxes. They want to defund the police. Nobody want to live in that type of environment. And so, yes, this president going to be reelected, and those polls are closing. They are. And matter of fact, to me, Trump is ahead. But again, when people get calls on those polls, many of them are just afraid to express what they feel.
You know, I got to bring this up. You know, young black men in this country, I think it's terrible when we watch anybody in this country be shot by the police or anybody and lose their life. I really think it's terrible. But whatever happened to just waiting, taking a deep breath, finding out what really happened? I mean, where Blake was shot in, I think it's a black man's name in Kenosha, Wisconsin, that is paralyzed. I don't like anything about it, but I got to step back and say, wait a minute, why were the police there? They were called. Who called the police on him being there? You know, what I'm saying is not to try that case in the media, and then all of a sudden we have riots and we have buildings burnt down. And as you well know, when that breaks out, these riots and destruction, it does nothing but hurt the black communities that are there, the people that are there when all the satellite trucks are gone and their neighborhoods and communities are burnt down and destroyed.
Let me tell you, what you just said is so true. You're right. You're spot on. I don't know if people don't see what's going on now. I don't know what else. I don't know what else can happen. But I can tell you this: when you look at what is happening with these riots, you look at what is happening with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. You look at the Democrats who are supporting and putting up with this crap. I mean, I don't know if you know this. Right near the Capitol, the mayor of D.C., they painted Black Lives Matter on the street and have a sign called Black Lives Plaza.
Yes. They
are igniting what's going on. They're creating this havoc. They are literally, they won't put Blue Lives Matter, but they'll put Black Lives Matter. Well, I happen to be a black life, and by the way, those officers, we had black police officers that were protecting me. I want to thank those police officers in D.C. They didn't have the protection because the leadership, the Democratic leadership, did not have those police out there like they should have been protecting those people. This whole thing, it's crazy what has happened. But I'll say this: maybe now, Speaker Ralston and the Georgia General Assembly will understand when I was saying that we need to make it a part of the hate crime, that if you're attacked for your political ideology and your party affiliation, you should be held accountable. You should be arrested and get justice, swift justice, because it doesn't make sense. If you attack somebody because of their religion, it's a crime. If you attack somebody because of their gender, it's a crime. If you attack someone because of their race, it's a hate crime. Why not now? And we had a chance to lead the country in this past session. And I tried to push the Jones Amendment that would allow it to be a hate crime to attack someone for their political ideology and political affiliation. My life was threatened. My guest's life was threatened. Senator Rand Paul's life was threatened, his wife, and many others. Why?
Well, because the Democrats,
what they're doing. Right. This should be a hate crime.
The Democrats have a list of hate crimes, but if it doesn't fit in the Democratic list of hate crimes, they have their list. They have their list of hate crimes. Outside of that, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
But you're right. Because let me say this. I'm sorry. I mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But it was the Democrats, mainly the Democrats in the Georgia General Assembly session this year. It was the Democrats that fought that amendment from being put in the bill. Why? Because they are the biggest perpetrators of attacking people based on their political affiliation and ideology. Isn't that ironic? That they were the ones who fought it.
I think what you're saying is exactly if you take the opinion that if you look at the hate crime and you wanted a hate crime, and there's a lot of people, I won't mention any names, that were happy that finally Georgia had a hate crime bill. I think what happened to you, your guest, Rand Paul, his wife, and others, these people should be brought up on charges of hate crime. I mean, this is disgusting. If I would change the words, if me, a man of color, also white, if I changed U-House N-word to something different and I sent it at you, I would be charged with a hate crime.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I would. If I said, something of that nature to you as you were walking down the street, I would be charged with a hate crime. I would fall under hate crime. But the individual that said that to you, listen, when you come on, it's always a pleasure. I love the discussion because you and I just have discussion, and I love everything about it. Let's close with this. Are you going to be campaigning for the president in the next, I think we have right at 60 days or right in that area, but 65 days, are you going to be campaigning for the president? And if so, is it going to be across the country or in a designated area?
I am campaigning for this president from my street all the way across this country.
Okay.
Anybody and everybody who can hear my voice, because we need to reelect Donald Trump. We need him. He's the only thing standing between chaos and community. I can tell you that right now.
Are you going to go out there and campaign knowing what took place Thursday night may be just the beginning of what you have to endure? Do you feel that strong that that may happen again and you're going to have to go out knowing you may endure that again? Are you ready for that?
I'm even more determined now, because if I stop, if I give up, if I walk off the battlefield, they win. All right? They win. So it's not about me. It's about those who feel the same way I feel, who are afraid, and I understand why they're afraid, but they want a voice out there speaking up for them. And so I am more determined now. I'm going anywhere and everywhere they'll have me in the midst of this pandemic. Obviously, I'm practicing the best practices to keep myself protected from the virus, but I cannot sit idly by. And having been a personal victim of this type of hate and not do anything about it. And then after the president is elected, I'm going to actually also ask for the president to push for federal hate crime legislation as relates to someone being attacked because of their political ideology. And Georgia could have taken the lead across the country and passed that. And they failed. They didn't. For whatever reason, they should have. And I spoke vocally. I was very vocal about that. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, I introduced a bill in February to include being a crime for assaulting someone based on their political ideology. That was in February. Nobody even paid attention to my bill. It never even surfaced until after what happened down in Brunswick and with George Floyd. And even then, we had a second chance to get it amended in the hate crime bill that passed, that came up because of those other shootings, and the Democrats fought it. And I'm going to be honest, there were some Republicans who were afraid to touch it too, and they left it out of the bill. They were afraid. I call balls and strikes. There were some Republicans who was afraid to touch. They agreed with me privately, but they were afraid to touch it.
Well, I don't generally admit anywhere where I may be wrong. Okay, I obviously I don't like to do that, but I'm going to say this: the first conversation we ever had, I said you sounded like a conservative. I was a little off the mark there. You sound like someone that loves their country and not a party, and that's your priority. So I after listening to you the other night, I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter if he's a Democrat. This is just somebody that's just calling balls and strikes, and I like it there. I have a little request, so we go. Okay, this is not real big. You may be able to make this happen, but if you bump into Donald J. Trump anywhere, if you could pass along two things. Number one, I am amazed to hear Americans last week with stories of the compassion and love that this man has for his country and the American people. I was amazed by that, the underlying stories that never get told. And it's very true. He has compassion and love for the American people, if that could ever get passed along directly to him. Second, if you could share with him, there's a Trump supporter in North Georgia, a nice little interview wouldn't, you just saying, you know what I mean? Just saying, you know what I mean? Just saying.
I could tell you that the president loves Georgia, and he always asks me how things going in Georgia.
Well, you tell him now.
Well, let me tell you, he called me on Monday night. It's kind of strange. It's late Monday night. I'd given the speech, and I was knocked out. The phone rang. I'm like, who in the heck is calling me? And I answer the phone. I didn't recognize this number. I answer the phone, and someone says, is this Representative Vernon Jones? I say, I was a little like perturbed, like, yes, this is he. Like, what in the hell are you doing calling me this late at night? And then this guy says, this is the White House. Will you hold for a moment, please? And I almost fell out of the bed. And I straightened up, and a few minutes later, Vernon Jones, how you doing? You did a hell of a job for us. Thank you. That was a home run. My friends are talking about you. Who the hell is this Vernon Jones? And let me tell you, thank you so much. And I love Georgia. I want to come back to Georgia. And just went on, started talking. Then he started talking about Herschel Walker, and then he talked about some of the things that he wanted to do in his second term, and that Georgia's on his mind, and removing restrictions, getting road projects going, and with the port down in Savannah. I mean, he spent about 30 minutes, close to 30 minutes. I had to say, Mr. President, you have a country to run. You go ahead. I'm with you, Mr. President, and I appreciate you. But he spent more time talking about Georgia and how important Georgia is, and how he loves Georgia, and how he wants to do more to help and helping the black community, help with small businesses. I mean, he didn't have to do that. And so what I should have said, look, Mr. President, I have a friend of mine up in North Georgia. He hasn't invited me to North Georgia, but maybe he'll invite you. He has a little radio station up there. Maybe he'll invite you to come up, and I'll remember that the next time. How about that?
Just write that down so you don't forget it. I don't know, pin it on your sleeve or something. I appreciate.
But
I appreciate
he's coming back
that.
to Georgia, though. He's coming back. He's coming back to Georgia. That's for sure.
All jokes aside, I tell my friends all the time, when you hear and you see that I interview the president, you can laugh all you want, but I'm not going to stop, because I think the president and I could have a very nice conversation. And what I would love to do is what I know happens with the Republican convention, all of the great stories out there that are need to be unearthed, like the convention did, to shine where the liberal media will not. Sir, we could talk about it all day. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I will text you, and we'll stay in touch throughout the campaign. I'd like to have you back more to talk about your time on the campaign trail for the President of the United States.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it, and your listeners can catch me at Twitter at Rep Vernon Jones.
Absolutely, that's going to be on the screen. We're going to put that on the screen.
Okay.
Yes, we're going to put that on the screen so people can see that. And we're going to highlight that at Rep, as you can see on the screen. You can see that at Rep Vernon Jones and on Twitter. So we'll have that, sir, that everybody can see. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day, and we appreciate you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Again, folks, Vernon Jones, Georgia State House Democratic representative. I asked Mr. Jones, did he and his guest at any time feel their life was possibly in danger? And he said, not possibly, in danger. In danger. These are not peaceful protests, people. They're not. They're not protests. This is a man, in his own words, did not behave as he watched CNN and MSNBC. If you are a person of color, you have to behave. Those are his words. Okay? Mental plantation. Those are Mr. Jones's words. So what I'm saying to you, these are not peaceful protests. This is in fear of your life. Yes, absolutely. So we're going to take, Vernon Jones, we're going to take a brief break. We'll be right back after these brief messages from our sponsors.
Circuit World has complete queen bedroom packages at amazing prices. Get this queen bed, dresser and mirror, one nightstand, bedding set, and free 32-inch TV, all for only $1799.99 or $129.99 a month. Or get this complete queen bedroom set and sleep in style, also for only $1799.99 or $129.99 a month. What an incredible deal! Stop in today at one of our 5 locations and get the furniture you've always wanted at Circuit World.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
If you want big Chevy discounts, Days Chevrolet in Jasper gets it done with savings of $8,000 on new Chevy Equinox or up to $10,000 savings off new Silverado crew cabs. We're big on discounts and even bigger on customer service. See Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where new Chevys always cost less. Days Chevrolet, Days gets it done. Find new roads.
All right, folks, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. Now, we're going to run after 10 o'clock because we have 2 more interviews. So stay with us. And anything that, if you must leave, I don't think you should. If you must leave, all of these interviews will be on fyntv.com and also our YouTube channel, Fetch Your News. The social media ways you can follow us. I sent you a video. Do you have that video? If you have that video, get it ready, because peaceful protesters, you heard Vernon Jones. You switch it around, you see, give me number really quick. We got to get our next one in here. Give me number 2. Okay. If you can get me number 2, this is Vernon Jones. We just interviewed, walking to his hotel Thursday night. Okay. This black man, trade that picture for me or you or someone white, let's just put it like that, and yell at Vernon Jones. Now think about this. Yell at Vernon Jones, right? You house N-word. Think about it. Change the picture. You house N-word. Now, remember when Nancy Pelosi, right? Now, I want you to think about this. I really do. I want you to ask your friends. Remember when Nancy Pelosi had the gavel and she had Elijah Cumming, I guess it was, and so forth, and James Clyburn, and they're walking up and they're getting ready to deliver Obamacare, right? Remember that? They were delivering Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. And there was a rope line of protesters yelling at them, remember? And the media went nuts saying somebody yelled the N-word. Remember that? Remember that? Someone yelled the N-word, right? Remember audio analysts they brought in? They took specialists to analyze all the audio to listen. Now put your ear down real close. Listen one more time. Did you hear it? They took a lot of painstaking time to find someone supposedly from the rope line yelled the N-word that day. Remember? But we have on audio. We didn't play it because I didn't want to play it today. We have that video. Go listen. You will hear him called the N-word. You house N-word. Play that video from the president.
Today's Democrat Party is filled with hate. Just look at Joe Biden's supporters on the streets screaming and shouting at bystanders with unhinged manic rage, right? You see it? It's crazy. It's crazy. You had to see last night in Washington. It was a disgrace. It was a disgrace that these people are representing the United States of America. It was a disgrace. Protesters. You know what I say? Protesters, your ass. I don't talk about my ass. They're not protesters. Those aren't those are anarchists. They're agitators. They're rioters. They're looters. They're not. You say that, and some of the people, not all of them, but some of the people back there, how dare you? These are friendly protesters, right? Friendly protesters.
Friendly protesters, your ass, not my ass, right? They're not friendly protesters. Vernon Jones just gave you a direct account, a personal account of the fear. This man is not a man that lives in fear. And he told you directly, if the police were not there, law enforcement, that you want to defund his life, he was in fear for his life. Now, this morning, you're seeing this all over. So let's run through this because we got to bring in our next guest. What's going on from, so give me number, give me this right here, number 64. The number 64, look at that, number 64. Now put that video in this all together. I don't know if you're doing that, but rest in peace, Patriot Jay Bishop. Okay. Now you will listen all day long. Okay. Now, why did I have to go across the pond? Okay. Why did I have to go across the pond? Okay. Why? Suspect 48 in fatal shooting of Patriot Prayer supporter is dad of two who describes himself as 100% anti-Antifa. 100% Antifa. It took a loaded gun to Portland protest earlier this year. They're talking about Kyle Wittenhouse. Is that his name? The 17-year-old young man? They're aware of this man. He has already attended and has had a gun, a loaded gun in Portland earlier this year. Fully 100% Antifa. Okay? Michael Forrest Riano, or whatever, 48, was named by the Oregonian Sunday night as someone police are investigating. He is said to describe himself as 100% Antifa, a murderer, Antifa, anarchist, and social media posts show him attending Black Lives Matter protests. Now, so many people will say, give me number 65. I'm sorry, I didn't ask you for that. This is what I'm reading from, number 65. So many people will say, oh no, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, right? Where is, when you're coming out on the media and you're asking for Donald Trump to condemn violence, where is your request for the NBA players to condemn violence, to get Antifa out of Black Lives Matter, that they're not the same? Where is your asking Antifa to get out of Black Lives Matter and try to separate and stop the violence? It's not out there. It's not out there. Allegations surrounding his earlier arrest for carrying a loaded gun were dropped in July. They're dropping charges on these people. Law and order, folks. It's anarchy, okay? Antifa is not known why. Patriot Prayer founder Joey Gibson identified the victim of Saturday night's shooting as Aaron J. Danielson. Police has released little information, and the chief, Chuck Lavelle, said investigators are still gathering evidence. Let me show you something, folks. Brace yourself. These are not pictures that you're really going to want to see. Number 67. Man laying dead in the street. Dead in the street. Man laying dead in the street. I've got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hell, I got 6. I might have more. A far right hat. Man wearing far right hat. What the friggin' hell? Come on, man. What if somebody went out and shot every dumbass wearing some stupid ass t-shirt? $66. And number 60. Number 60. Man killed in Portland protest wore far right hat. Antifa. Black Lives Matter. Portland, it's out of control, you jackass mayor out there. I don't want to get started. I didn't want to get angry today. Out of control. All right, folks, how are things going with the Trump campaign in Georgia? We started out this morning with, and that, let's get ready for another one. We started out this morning talking about the polling numbers, right? We showed you the truth of what's going on, why Joe Biden and the Democrats are in fear. Joe is out of the basement. Out of the basement, Joe. Going to Pennsylvania. Let's see what happens. See if he takes questions. See how he handles being out in the sunlight, if it doesn't hurt his skin. That being said, Joe out of the basement because of the polling numbers. You keep hearing Georgia is a toss-up. Georgia is a toss-up. So we asked, I asked this weekend, Savannah Vire, the Trump victory, it's Trump campaign in Georgia, Trump victory, Georgia press secretary, to join us and talk about what's really going on with the Biden-Harris campaign. And I'm going to tell you before we end today, one of the most nastiest, ugliest things a candidate could ever say come out of Kamala Harris's mouth. But this interview here, stay tuned right now for, let me get her on next, tell you what's going on in Georgia as far as the Trump campaign is concerned, and Biden, how serious are they about Georgia at this time? So we're not going to break. Don't leave. Just take about 10 seconds and get our next guest in here. Savannah Vire. We're back, and I'm your host, BKP. We're North Georgia's only live online morning show, and we're doing everything we can to keep you connected on what's happening with the Trump campaign, especially here in Georgia. We're going to keep up with all of the races. It's going to be a big night, election night, November 3rd, and don't forget, we are going to have a live election coverage. We'll tell you more about that later. But joining us now, the Georgia press secretary for Trump victory, Savannah Vire. Savannah, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Brian. How are you doing?
I can't complain. I'm going to start with this. How about this? So I watched 100% of the, I know you're going to say, how did you do that? But I watched 100% of the Democratic convention. I did, every minute. Because I study politics, and I want to see the contrast. I want to see what direction both campaigns are going. So I watched 100% of the Democratic convention, and I watched 100%, didn't miss a single speech of the Republican convention. And now I watch the media, the corporate media, that is trying to do everything they can, as the President of the United States, he'll call them sometimes MSDNC, but I'm watching the media do everything they can to try to pump up and create some kind of excitement out of the Democratic National Convention, try to create some kind of enthusiasm that I just did not see, and I'm watching them at the same time trying to push down the enthusiasm in the Republican Party. What say you?
I completely agree with you. I mean, I think that the DNC a couple of weeks ago was boring. I thought it was sad, and I thought that they painted a picture of a decrepit, deprived nation that just simply doesn't exist. And then, coming off the heels of the RNC last week, it was the exact opposite. I mean, the excitement around the president and around Republicans and around what we are offering the country is in stark contrast, and I agree that it's a sad thing to witness the national media pundits, completely get it wrong and try to rewrite history, which is just simply not the case.
Well, I couldn't agree with that more, because I told our viewers here the Monday after the Democratic convention that I really tried. I keep a notebook. You can't see it, but it's right here in front of me, and I don't watch anything without being able to jot down some notes. I tried everything I could to find a real positive out of their convention, and it just didn't exist. It was just gloomy. And whoever was in charge of the Republican convention, I want to give them a shout out for not, exposing me to have to watch Zoom clapping of people, real live people. I mean, I don't know what to say, so I'll leave it at that. In Georgia, let's move to Georgia. What do you see? Again, a lot of the media is calling Georgia a toss-up. They're calling it a toss-up, and I know we have a lot of races they're looking at, but let's focus in on the Trump campaign. How geared up is President Trump in Georgia, and are we ready?
undoubtedly ready and undoubtedly prudent and hardworking. We have over 100 staff on the ground that have recruited and trained volunteers that are going out and knocking on doors and making phone calls. This cycle alone, we have already reached nearly 6 million voter contacts, and last week we knocked our 600,000th door. So while Joe Biden and while everybody else can say that Georgia is a swing state or that this is, a toss-up, they certainly aren't pouring the resources into it that would make us believe their own statements. They have maybe 5 staffers on the ground, and they have knocked 0 doors. So here in Georgia, we are working hard to bring home a win for the president and for Republicans up and down the ballot.
So when you say you're looking at not just what they might say on one of the media shows with pundits, you're looking at the actual people they're putting on the ground, the Biden campaign in Georgia, and some of their movement, and you're not seeing them look at Georgia right now as the battleground state as they're trying to portray?
Correct. I mean, they recently announced they hired 5 staffers, all of whom are senior staffers, and they did that in August. Meanwhile, like I said, we have over 100 on the ground, and we have been here since 2016. We have not left Georgia since 2016. So we have been here and, been knocking doors, been doing voter contacts, been doing voter trainings, and their presence is just gone.
Well, I'm going to tell you there last week, I want to switch to the convention, but bring it into Georgia. Last week, I've been admitting this over and over. There wasn't a single night that I didn't have to push back tears. I'll be candid about that. They were awesome. And I don't want to leave anybody out. Kayleigh McElhaney with that amazing story of courage. The young lady, and I should have brought it up, that experienced bone cancer and the right to try. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you remember what I'm talking about.
I do.
There was such a connection with women and highlighting women in the Trump campaign, moms across this country, whatever it may be. Now, the question is the president and the suburban women. How did the Republicans do last week where that's concerned, and what is the campaign seeing around Metro Atlanta?
I mean, like you said, Natalie Harp's speech really did, it brought tears to my eyes as well. And I think that her speech and Kayleigh McEnany's and all of the women, it really did showcase the enthusiasm around the president. Doesn't just exist, in this bubble, but it also expands. And in terms of the, Metro Atlanta suburban women, just last week, we had a Women for Trump 100-year suffrage anniversary celebration and Trump Victory Leadership Initiative training, where we had tons of women come and show up and show support and learn how to register voters and learn how to get involved in the Trump campaign. And that was in Cobb County. So we are seeing this enthusiasm trickle down. We are seeing it, come from the bottom up as well. And it's there in every aspect of Georgia.
I know almost on a daily basis in some areas, and whether big or small or large, you guys are doing some kind of internal polling or looking at target areas and studying different demographics. Let me get back to that safety, suburbs and safety. Now, myself, I watched the McCluskeys that were in St. Louis that were protecting their private property. We watched Dorn, I think it was Miss Dorn, her husband, the police chief in St. Louis. At one time, a police chief outside of St.